welcome to another edition of Moments Off the Mat. I'm Mike Willis with USA Wrestling. Today I'm joined by Cornell's head coach Rob Koll and the Grecoroman head coach of the Spartan RTC, Ahads Javansalehi. Gentlemen, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're muted.
You muted us both, or just Ahad?
No, I actually didn't mute Ahad. Ahad, I think you muted yourself. Let's see. I'll unmute you. I can't unmute you.
Okay, so
No,
yeah,
now you're good.
I'm doing good, and thank you for having us.
Yeah. No, pleasure's all mine. So today we're going to talk about a little about the Spartan RTC, and in particular the Greco-Roman component of it, because you guys are kind of unique with the fact you have a Greco-Roman head coach. Most RTCs are obviously freestyle centric. Cornell still has a lot of success with the freestyle component of the RTC too. But Rob, could you just talk a little bit about when the RTC was founded? And you've had a couple name changes over the years, so just walk us through that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so you mentioned we're the Spartan Regional Training Center, Spartan Combat Regional Training Center now. People are like, what the heck is Spartan Regional Training Center? We initially were the Finger Lakes Regional Training Center for years and years and years, and then we wanted to have a little bit more all-encompassing, more than just the Ithaca region, because we did represent a lot of New York State, so we changed it to New York Regional Training Center. And right around that time, Columbia came up and had their New York City Regional Training Center. Then you had the New York Athletic Club, and it was really complicated, or not complicated, but very confusing to people. And we didn't want to give those guys credit for our regional training center. So we went from Finger Lakes Wrestling Club doing business as New York Regional Training Center to ultimately Joe DeSena from Spartan Races, who's a Cornell grad, stepped up and is backing our program significantly, and we wanted to change the name of our regional training center to represent his support. And so we're now the Spartan Regional Training Center, and it was originally established when I first came here. We just had the youth program that was Finger Lakes. We really catered to the kids, and it was kind of almost a funding mechanism for our program. And around 2011, the regional training, or maybe earlier, I know it was at least by 2011, the regional training centers kind of entered the fray, and that's when we had both Finger Lakes Regional Training Center and this youth program, but we've since then disassociated ourselves, and we have no affiliation whatsoever with the only Finger Lakes Wrestling Club, which is a youth club, not even run out of our program, out of our building.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that. How soon after the RTC was established did you realize you wanted to have a Greco-Roman presence within the regional training center?
It actually evolved over time, and what really captured my attention the most was I met with Matt Linlin, and I don't know if he convinced me or I convinced him to have the Greco-Roman World Team Trials at Cornell, and I just met some of the Greco wrestlers, and I liked their attitude, and I wanted to kind of get involved in some capacity. And we had the final trial. It was number 1 versus number 2 at the Friedman Center. It was a great event. Got to know the guys, and thought, I liked them. And at that time we had some guys who had a little bit of Greco experience on our team. One in particular was my son, so I kind of got sucked in that biologically. He enjoyed the sport, and so that's where I got my real entry into it, is coaching him and helping him and learning a little bit about the sport, and very novice level at that point in time. Rick Gumbel from Binghamton would always come over and push the Greco component, and I wasn't always a big fan, even though I probably stylistically as an athlete I probably should have gone Greco. If I were smart, I probably could have made some teams. I had to worry about guys like beating out Dave Schultz and Kenny Mondays and guys like that. Would have been a lot easier if I had gone Greco. I was too proud to do it at the time. So anyway, that's how I got into it and really enjoyed it. And then over time developed a relationship with Matt Linlin, and then he presented an opportunity for us to bring Ahad out, and I jumped on it, and that's where we are today.
Awesome. Ahad, for folks that don't know, could you speak a little bit to your background in Greco-Roman and how long you've been involved with the sport for?
Sure. I started wrestling at a very young age, around 12 years old, and I wrestled for a while freestyle, but then my brother became a Greco coach, and I switched to Greco, and I become the national team member in senior when I was 17 years old, and I am the only wrestler ever become a national team member in 6 different weight categories. And I wrestled in the Asian Championship. I'm Asian champion several times, and I wrestled in the Olympic 1988 and 1992, and I missed Olympic 1996 due to my knee injury. And I've been on the mat, I would say, about 40 years. And I got involved with the U.S. Wrestling coach in when Steve Frazier was the head coach in around 2000, and I've been honored and very blessed to have the opportunity to work with the USA Wrestling since.
So, Ahad, a lot of people I think see the similarities between freestyle and folk style, and how being a solid freestyle wrestler can help collegiate wrestlers and folk style wrestlers. Can you talk a little bit about the benefits Greco-Roman bring to folk style?
Well, I think if you look at some of the, technique and the training that we have in Greco, and if you be able to, like, for example, if you do it like headlock and pin the guy, it doesn't matter what style you wrestle. If you do the hip toss and pin the guy, or leg drop, or throw, pin the guy, it's a tool, it's a technique that can help you to reach your goal. And it doesn't matter if it's freestyle or Greco-Roman or sambo jiu-jitsu, as long as you pin the guy, so that's beneficial for you, and that's what I believe. And especially it teaches you great hand fight and hand control, and I think that can be very beneficial for any folk style. That's what I believe, and especially freestyle for sure, no question. Look at like some of the greatest wrestlers they ever wrestled. Like, for example, look at Saitiev, and he's a, 9-time world champion, 3 times Olympic champion. Or you look at like what he does with 2-on-1, what he does with underhook, or like Kyle Dake. It can be very, very, very beneficial for a folk style. No question.
Thanks, Ahad. And Rob, as a college coach, do you see that as well? And do you see the guys that you have participating in Greco taking that skill set and applying it to folk style and freestyle too?
Well, yeah, obviously what Ahad said is, I would be parroting on exactly what he said. But as a folk style coach, I'm looking at it 2 ways. I'm also trying to recruit the top kids here in the country. And if someone has a Greco-Roman influence, and I can use that hook to get them to come to Cornell, it's a huge advantage. So I see it 2 ways. 1, it can help them on the mat, and 2, it helped me get some of the best talent in the country to come to Ithaca, New York.
So going along with that, I'm sure having Ahad as a full-time Greco coach is part of that draw to guys that are good Greco wrestlers. How did Ahad become the Cornell coach or the Spartan Combat RTC coach, and what did that look like?
Well, as I said, Matt presented me with an opportunity that we knew we wanted to. I think he was. Well, I don't think. I know he wanted to emulate the freestyle system and what the amount of money that gets spent on supporting freestyle wrestlers across the country. It's millions of dollars between what we spend in Penn State and Iowa and Oklahoma and so on and so forth. They're spending huge amounts of money, and the idea was, hey, let's do a little seed money, and then we agreed to step up and support the program and see if we can't get a little competition amongst the collegiate teams for the top Greco talent. Right now, aren't a lot of places for guys who want to focus on Greco or have that collegiate experience. There aren't a lot of places to go. You can go to Northern Michigan, but not everybody wants to go to Northern Michigan. And most high school students don't want to give up their collegiate experience. They want to wrestle for their college team and be a Greco-Roman or a freestyle wrestler. And here at Cornell, you can do both. So, and I think to a lesser degree, it has worked, spurred a few other programs to put some money into it. Hasn't taken off, I know, like they want. They want it to be just blowing up everywhere. But the investment has been made, and I know that we've also continued to spend more and more on our Greco program, and the results have been, I think, fairly significant as to some of the talent that we have. Obviously, Andy Berriesa was a silver medalist. John J. Chavez made a world team, but guys that are in the room right now. I just try to think of guys off the top of my head. We've got world team members. John Fagan was on a world team. Chase LaJoy coming in this year is on a world team. Philip Mooney from Nebraska is on a world team. And Chris Boca pinned his way through the junior nationals on Greco. So, I don't think there are a lot of teams that have more Greco talent. And it was really unfortunate because this spring, I think USA Wrestling would have really seen the fruits of our labor at the trials, because we had a great team training, and we don't just do it after the season's over. We do it during the season. We let the guys train Greco during the season. We have hard running practices during the season. People think think I'm crazy because of that. We allow them to have an emphasis on Greco during the season. I don't see it hurting the kids at all. I actually think it can really complement what they already do. Obviously, we don't have them doing it 7 days a week or 5 days or 6 days a week. But I think you can really, truly just have that influence and also have the collegiate experience.
So, Rob, you did touch on two very impressive feats that have already come out of the Greco portion of the RTC, with Andrew Berriesa taking a junior world silver, which is a huge deal for USA Wrestling and your program, and John Jake Chavez making a world team while still in college, which is an extremely impressive feat. I kind of want to go over to Ahad on this one. Ahad, what do you think the key or the secret to success, or just what else is contributing to the Greco-Roman success at this program?
Well, I think the most important part to the little success we have, because I expect more, is the atmosphere and environment we have in the wrestling room. We have, like, truly one of the I would say most beneficial and bonded wrestling room we have. Everybody cares about each other, and everybody pushing each other to achieve their goals. And I think the more importantly is, the environment, the atmosphere we have, the wrestling room we have over here. So I think that's very important key. Plus, we have, as I said, some guys over here like Kyle Dick, we have Gabe Dean, we have Yanni, and I know those are most of there's different styles than the Greco, but even being around them pushes our guys to reach higher level and become more successful. So I think to sum this up, the atmosphere that we have in Cornell, it is the best.
Thanks, Ahad. Rob, so the metric for success for any NCAA team, any college team, is how they perform at the NCAA tournament. That being said, winning world medals and making age group world teams is kind of a big deal, regardless of where you are. What kind of emphasis does Cornell put on that? And, is Cornell proud to have people represent them at the world level?
Well, understand, RTCs have no affiliation with Cornell, and that's what some people forget, that RTCs are set up and are funded through the generosity of those college alumni and not the college itself. And sometimes people get it backwards. They think that the RTC, Cornell is set up, or the school is set up to meet the needs of the RTC, and that's not the case. You know, the RTC is set up, and they thrive or shrivel on the vine depending upon what kind of influence they have and how they can help Cornell. And so if an RTC and the athletes on that RTC are succeeding, and by succeeding they're helping Cornell, there's going to be funding, and there's going to be people who are generous. And I think some schools have it backwards. They think that, though, you know, some of these athletes think that, you know, that the schools are set up to help them reach their goals. That's not the case. These athletes need to understand that if by reaching your goal you're helping the school reach its goals, then God bless you, you're actually worth something. And that's really the bottom line. Is obviously our alumni want to see that type of success. They want to see medals, and they want to see guys make world and Olympic teams. But at the end of the day, it's about those guys training and helping our athletes reach their goals and become national champions, and hopefully lead Cornell to a national championship. Right. So does it help? Absolutely, winning gold medals and all those things. But you know, it helps because it helps attract more athletes who want to train with those guys. And that's really the bottom line, is having Kyle Dake winning a gold medal doesn't make Cornell win any more national championships. It doesn't make my team any better. Having Deshaun Garrett here training with us doesn't help. If his success doesn't necessarily in itself help me win any more matches for Cornell, but they will attract great athletes who will then win national championships for Cornell. And that's really the reason we try to do all this stuff is, and not that we don't want to help and I'm very selfish as to who we help. I'm Cornell centric, and as far as the people we bring in, almost entirely Cornellians. Our alumni are much more generous supporting Cornell athletes because they want to see those guys. And if it's a gold medal in the freestyle, or if it's a gold medal in Greco, honestly, as long as they're in the Olympics, that's what it's all about. And so for us, it costs us a lot less. I am certain it costs us a lot less to have that kind of success in Greco than it does in freestyle. And so it's easier to make that investment in Greco, and hopefully we're going to start seeing, you know, the fruits of our labor.
So in a similar vein, you had a handful of athletes take Olympic red shirts this year, with Yanni, Vito, Max Dean, Andrew Berriesa, who actually came off of it but was intending to. Could you talk a little bit about that decision and what goes into it?
Well, a lot of that was, I mean, to be perfectly honest, there were two kind of trains of thought there. One, hopefully a Yanni, a Vito can make the Olympic team, and Andy Berriesa to make the Olympic team. Max Dean, I mean, if he walks in the door, I wouldn't be embarrassed to say this because it wasn't realistic at that point in his development that he's going to make the team. But we wanted to slow down his matriculation so that we could have kind of a super team. You know, for us to be able to compete with the Iowas and the Penn States of the world, you know, it's really difficult. It's more difficult to get in. We don't have the same kind of scholarship program. Not to say that we don't have our own advantages. I'm not crying the blues. It's just we have to be a little bit more creative and kind of stack up every so many years. And so to slow those four down, the graduation down a little bit, the goal was this year, and then the following year we have a legitimate shot of a national title run. Gotcha.
Thanks, Rob. Ahad, growing up and wrestling in Iran, you've got probably a very different perspective on, you know, the American style of training and wrestling. What do you think, you know, as someone who's had their foot in both worlds, is the biggest difference between American Greco-Roman wrestlers and international Greco-Roman wrestlers?
Well, I think the biggest difference would be in Iran and Europe and Russia and many other countries. They start Greco-Roman wrestling when they are in development age. Well, I would say 10, 11 years old. And they have a head coach and assistant coach for a cadet, and also they have a head coach and assistant coach for a junior and senior as well. We do not have that in the United States. So when they are at that age, start learning technique and developing, and they get in technique and they go into different competition, they are already way ahead of us in US, we start thinking about and start wrestling mostly after high school. And we always play kind of like catch up with them. And I think that that's the biggest difference. But I think there is a way we can hopefully close the gap by having a more colleges just like us, like RTC Greco program in more colleges in the country, and getting the support by the university and by the USA Wrestling. And hopefully we have like, I think if we have like 20, 30 like our program, and they attract, as the coach Koll mentioned, not a lot of, I mean, if we have a great program in Northern Michigan, but not a lot of people want to go to Northern Michigan and just wrestle Greco. And there's some of them, they continue to try folk style. And if we have some, different colleges, they do the same thing that we are doing and getting support. I think that's the way we will be able to close the gap and hopefully, get where we deserve. And another thing is just like in the old days, the wrestling was like 2, 3 minutes and 1 minute in the break. And we were like really good at pummeling and grinding, and we had some success, but right now it's a 5 minutes match, and everybody is very they know how the sports work, they know how the conditioning works because of this media. Everybody is just like connected to each other. The guy in Kenya can sit over there and see how the Cornell trains, or how the Iowa trains, or how the USA Wrestling trains. So they get to that superior condition. Now, at this stage, I think technique plus condition is the key. So as I mentioned, we are not grow up in this country. We are not grown up like 10, 11 years old learning Greco. We learn later on. And I'm repeating myself, as if we have some program just like us and be supported by, USA Wrestling and the colleges and some other individuals right now, our program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Esplin and Dr. Mike Clark supporting our, our program. If we get like that, like Spartan supports some of our program, other programs supports different programs, the different colleges, I think we can hopefully, as I said, catch up with the rest of the world.
All right, Ahad, I'm going to ask you this question, and then I'm going to bring the same question over to you, Rob. But some coaches and athletes might not think it's worth their time to invest their effort and their resources in Greco, or, in kid's case, might think that he needs to only be doing freestyle. What would you say to coaches and athletes that don't think it's worthwhile to participate in Greco?
Well, to be honest, I would just say, you know what? The wrestling in the Greco is Olympic style, right? Greco is Olympic style. To be honest, I look at the John Smith, for example. I look at John Smith. I don't remember what he accomplished in the college level. I don't. I know probably he did, like he won the national championship. That's what I think. But I know what he did in the World Championship and Olympic, and it is folk style is great, all that stuff. We all know that, but it is not worldwide. It's not like you become Olympic champion, or you go to world team member and you go and become basically #1 in the world, or have the opportunity to play your anthem of your country, one of the greatest country on the face of planet. Right? Or you go to Olympic and represent your country in front of 4 or 5 billion people, right? That is, that is priceless. That is nothing you can compare to that. And we have a lot of good talents in this country. And from the day when I started with the USA Wrestling, I believed we had a good seed that we can grow and make this thing like our guys to become a world and Olympic champion. I know we had that. And Greco is one of the freestyle and Greco. Those are the two styles we have that you can go represent your greatest country on the face of earth. So I think that it says all.
Ahad, you got me pretty fired up with that answer. That was a good one. Rob, I'm going to swing it over to you.
Well, I'm going to have to shoot Ahad down a little bit because not everyone's made 6 world teams of 6 different weights. So I think for the 99.9% of the athletes who aren't going to be able to represent their country in the Olympics, why do you want to be wrestling Greco or freestyle? Because, you know, quite honestly, it's just all around better for your body, for one. I mean, if you wrestle folk style year round, that's where all the injuries are coming. But the key is having good coaches. And the problem with Greco-Roman in our country is we just don't have enough coaches. You know, I've watched Ahad coach and I've watched other people coach, and it's not the same sport. You know, he has a different system of coaching. He incorporates this athleticism and gymnastics and all around development of an athlete. And if you watch him train these kids, you'll understand why we want him to train our guys. And then you see other people train Greco, and like, well, you might as well just go push the wall for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It just doesn't make sense. So the key to anything, whether it's freestyle Greco, is having good coaches. And so that's one thing I would say with USA Wrestling is to have a real, and I know we used to have it, and I know they're working on it and they're trying to implement it, more of a consistent training scheme regiment where there's a how-to, because if you don't have good Greco coaches, you're not going to have good Greco wrestlers. And we're trying to take our athletes and at 25 years old, make them good wrestlers. It's too late. Ahad was wrestling Greco since he was knee high to a grasshopper, and freestyle. So he's developed those skills. And, but it also, I just think it just physiologically, it helps these kids to do the back arches and the lifts. All those things help build athleticism. And for me, when I recruit, I look for toughness and I look for athleticism. And if I have a kid who's tough and athletic, I can teach him how to wrestle. That's the simple part. And it's the same thing as why would you teach gymnastics? It's part of a skill set that helps you be more successful. Ahad mentioned Kyle earlier. I have no doubt Kyle can make a Greco-Roman Olympic team right now. I have zero doubt whatsoever. He did quite a bit of Greco. And if you see him lock up with you, he's devastating. His chest wraps, they're all Greco. His body locks are Greco. I mean, he's perfect example of one of the greatest wrestlers of our sport right now. And how the skills and techniques overlap. And so that's why I would encourage our kids to do Greco.
Great. Thanks for that answer, Rob. And I'm just going to plug the National Coaches Education Program really quick. If you go onto mat.com, there's a lot of great resources for coaches and athletes to check out. Mike Clayton's the head of that at USA Wrestling, and he does a great job with it. So, but anyways, thanks for coming on today, guys. I think we touched on some really good stuff. I appreciate your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This was another episode of Moments Off the Mat. And, 3 p.m. Eastern Mountain Time every day on YouTube. So keep following along. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.